Hi all, I'm Josh, and welcome to the Magic Hour. Today is going to be our first episode of Better Commander Precons, where I build budget commander decks for the same or around the same price as a pre-constructed deck to give new and existing players better options to get into a new deck. The first commander we're going to build is Kadena, Slinking Sorcerer. Because our precon originally retailed for $40, our budget is going to be at or around that price, and the final price for this build, at the time of recording of course, is $40.70, so just about where we wanted it to be. Starting with our commander, we have Kadena. She's 1, a black, a green, and a blue for a 3/3 Naga Wizard that reads, the first face-down creature spell that you cast each turn costs 3 less to cast, and whenever a face-down creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. With those abilities in mind, the goal of our deck will be to slow down and control the game using morphs and to use Kadena and other morph payoff cards to outvalue our opponents. So, how are we going to win with this? To start off, let's talk about our mana base. We're running a total of 28 basics, including 11 forests, 11 islands, and 6 swamps. In addition, we're running 8 non-basic lands to help fix our mana, including 2 fetch lands, an Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse, 3 lands to tap for any of our colors, including Opulent Palace, Command Tower, and Exotic Orchard, and the 3 bounce lands in our colors to help smooth out our land drops and fix our mana, including Simic Growth Chamber, Golgari Rot Farm, and Dimir Aqueduct. Next, we have our ramp package. Because our commander is 4 mana, as a general rule, we want to try to keep our ramp at CMC 2 and below. In the 1 CMC slot, we start off with Soul Ring. It comes in untapped, taps for 2, it only costs 1. It's one of the best ramp spells in Commander. At the time of recording, it's only $2, so we're going to put it in the deck. After that, we have an assortment of Mana Elves. These include Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystic, Fyndhorn Elves, and Wild Growth. I know Wild Growth isn't an elf, but for all intents and purposes it is. It costs 1 green, and when we enchant a land and tap that land, it gives us an additional green. Also in the 1 CMC slot, we have Obscuring Ether. This reduces the cost of our face-down creatures by 1. It doesn't exactly help us ramp into Kadena, but it helps reduce the cost of our other face-down creatures by a little bit over the course of the game. Moving on to our 2 CMC slot, we have Dimir Signet and Simic Signet. These are commander staples and are a great way to fix your mana and accelerate into Kadena. Additionally, we are also running Talisman of Curiosity because it fits well into our budget, and almost 90% of our mana symbols in the deck are blue and green. Moving on, we also have 3 spells that allow us to tap for any color, including Drover of the Mighty, Harvester Druid, and Fertile Ground. 3C will not only help us ramp, but also help us fix our mana. And then rounding out the 2 CMC slot, we have a green staple and Rampant Growth, which allows us to go and search for any basic land we need and put it into play. Our final piece of ramp, and our only ramp in the 3 CMC slot, is a card that I just could not pass up on in an all-star in our deck. That card is Scroll of Fate. Scroll of Fate allows you to tap it to manifest a card from your hand, allowing you to play an extra free morph creature every turn cycle. Next, we'll move on to the core of our deck, the morphs. I'll break these down to 3 simple categories based on what they provide for our strategy. First is removal. These are morphs that remove powerful threats on the battlefield or counter your opponent's spells before they ever get there. In this category, we start out with Anox Survivalist and Nantucket Vigilante to deal with problematic artifacts and enchantments. Silumgar Assassin, Skin Thinner, and Apheto Exterminator to destroy dangerous creatures. Kadena Silencer, Stratus Dancer, Void Mage Apprentice, and Silumgar Spell Eater to counter spells that we just can't let resolve. Also in this category, we have 2 ways to steal our opponent's threats that we think will be better used under our control, in Chromso Crab and Kero Spell Snatcher. To round out our removal package, we also have 2 non-morphs in the form of Silumgar's Command, an extremely flexible instant speed removal spell that will allow us to deal with almost any threat our opponent throws at us for only 5 mana, and Rewind, a universal counterspell that untaps 4 lands, allowing us to counter a spell and then still have mana up to flip over a morph. The second category that our morphs fall into is Control. These are morphs that fundamentally change how our opponents play the game and try to nudge gameplay in the direction that you want it to go. To start off, we have Broodhatch Nantucko and Deathmist Raptor to discourage creatures from coming your way. After that, we have Ice Feather Aven and Echo Tracer to temporarily remove creatures that aren't doing what you want them to do. Then we have Willbender and Mischievous Quinar to make your opponents think twice before sending an instant or sorcery your way. And the last morph in this category is Disruptive Pit Mage. Disruptive Pit Mage functions as a mana tithe on a stick and forces your opponents to constantly keep 1 mana up or risk having their spell countered. While this creature may seem weak, getting this down early can force players to play a turn slower than you until they find a way to remove this threat or cut a deal with you to allow them to cast your spells. The rest of our morphs fall into an other category. These morphs all do different things and play different unique roles in our deck. Because of this, I'll cover them as they come up. The next category I want to talk about though is card draw. Card draw is absolutely essential in a control deck, and it allows us to continue to find answers to our opponent's threats until we can eventually end the game. In this category, we have Secret Plans, Trail of Mystery, Beast Whisperer, and a Thedo Runecaster to draw us additional cards when playing and flipping morphs. We also have Abundance, Primordial Mists, and Whispered Elemental to give us additional incremental card advantage over time. And to round it out, we have Riptide Survivor and Fact or Fiction as great single-shot ways to fill up our hand when we need it most. After that, we have our suite of board wipes including Bane of the Living to give all creatures -X/-X, Thousand Winds and Whelming Wave to bounce or return creatures to hand, and the all-star of this category, Ixodron. Ixodron is 3 blue for an illusion creature that reads, as Ixodron enters the battlefield, turn all other non-token creatures face down. They're 2/2 creatures. Ixodron's power and toughness are equal to the number of face-down creatures on the battlefield. This card is so powerful in our deck because, more often than not, it serves as a completely one-sided board wipe. Because Ixodron doesn't give creatures a way to flip face up again, unless a creature has Morph or Megamorph, it stays face down as a 2/2 creature until it's bounced or destroyed. On our side of the board though, Ixodron simply turns face down the morphs we've already used, serving as a form of recursion, allowing our morphs to use their abilities all over again. Next, we have some protection. Yes, counter spells and redirects can serve as a way to protect our valuable pieces, but these are cards that sole focus is to protect the threats that we deploy. In this category, we have the trusty Swiftfoot Boots, providing hexproof and haste to those who wear them, and Misfire Weaver, that, when turned face up, gives a creature you control hexproof until the end of turn. Another important piece in any commander deck is recursion. Being able to reuse morph effects and bring back cards from the graveyard are both essential in any commander game, for us. To help us reuse our morphs, we have Master of the Veil to turn a single morph creature face down, and Reader of Lives to turn any number of morphs face down to be used again. Now, to help us bring things back from the graveyard, we have 2 great cards in Den Protector, bringing back any single card from our graveyard to our hand, and Ghastly Conscription to take all the creatures in any player's graveyard and manifest them directly onto the battlefield. Next, we have our deck's key cards. These are cards that don't necessarily fall into a general deck building category, but are absolute all-stars in our deck and help push the deck over the top when they're out. First, we have Vivian, Champion of the Wilds, and Tuttle Barracuda. Both of these cards grant our morph creatures flash, which, in conjunction with Kadena, allows us to play a free morph creature on each one of our opponent's turns. We also have a card called Wilderness Reclamation, which untaps our lands at the beginning of our end step. This great card allows us to play all of our morphs and the spells we want on our turn, and then still have mana left over to activate our face-down morphs on our opponent's turn. Now, last but not least, in this category we have a powerful 2-card combo for our deck. First, we have Biomancer's Familiar. Biomancer's Familiar reads, activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana cost to less than 1 mana. Second, it has Tap. The next time target creature adapts this turn, it adapts as though it had no +1/+1 counters on it. Ignore the second ability. The next card in the combo is Ixodor, Reality Sculptor. Ixodor reads, face down creatures get +1/+1, and for 2 and a blue, turn target face down creature face up. When playing in combination with one another, it allows us to activate any of our face down morphs for just a single blue mana. When this combo gets going, it can be almost impossible to stop you. Now for the final piece for our puzzle. You played a great game, successfully using your morphs and morph payoffs to control and slowly grind out the game. Now, how do we win? Well, we have 2 options. First of which is casting an overwhelming stampede and trampling over our opponents for the win. It's simple, it's effective, and if you successfully control the board, you should have no problem taking out at least a couple players. Second is a bit more complicated though. Our second winning condition is achieved by using Vesuvian Shapeshifter and Brian Elemental in combination with one another in what is affectionately called Pickles Lock. I will link to the full explanation in the description below by Commander Clemic MTG, but in short, Pickles Lock is achieved by using Vesuvian Shapeshifter Morph ability on Brian Elemental. When Vesuvian Shapeshifter flips face up, you make it a copy of Brian Elemental, causing Brian Elemental's ability to trigger, in which case each opponent skips his or her next untap step, and because Vesuvian Shapeshifter says you may flip it face down at the beginning of your upkeep, you can, for 2 mana every turn, cause each of your opponents to skip their untap step, effectively locking them out of the game. Now, this deck packs a ton of card draw, which should help us find these win conditions when you need them. But just to be absolutely sure, I've also included 2 tutors to go find our win conditions in the form of Diabolic Tutor, which lets us find any card from our deck, put it directly into our hand, and Shared Summons, which at instant speed lets us find any 2 creatures from our deck and put them into our hand, usually finding Vesuvian Shapeshifter and Brian Elemental, or one of our other 2-card combos we've talked about earlier. Now, before I conclude this video, if you have a bit more money to spend, or you've really enjoyed playing this deck and you're looking to upgrade, I'm going to go over a few more cards that'll turn the deck's power level up just a little bit. The first upgrade I would make to this deck is include a copy of Seedborn Muse. Seedborn Muse is 3 green for a 2/4 spirit that reads, untap all permanents you control during each player's untap step. Now, as good as Wilderness Reclamation is, Seedborn Muse is just a better version of that card for just a single mana more. We get to untap all of our permanents on each of our opponent's untap steps. Moving on, we have Leyline of Anticipation to replace Tidal Barracuda. Leyline of Anticipation still gives our spells flash, but it doesn't have the downside of being an easy to kill creature, and it doesn't give all of our opponent's spells flash as well. Now last but certainly not least, I'd look to upgrade the mana base. This section is highly dependent on your budget and certainly isn't something you have to do all at once. It would take me a really long time to go over all the different mana pieces you could add to improve this mana base, so just to make it easier for you guys, I'm going to link in the description to a great guide on 3-color mana bases to help anyone that's looking to upgrade this mana base get started, or if you already have a lot of pieces, give you an idea of what an ideal mana base would look like at the end of the day. Well, that's all folks. This has been Better Commander Precons starring Kadena, Slinking Sorcerer. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more content like this, please leave a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future commanders or video ideas, please leave a comment below. I'll do my best to get back to you. Thanks for tuning in to the Magic Hour. Until next time.